The banking crisis gets worse. $1.7 trillion in unrealized losses loom as U.S. banking rapidly bleed deposits, Michael Snyder reports. If our banking system cannot find a way to turn things around, our entire economy will soon be in a world of hurt. When banks get into trouble, they start getting really tight with their money. That means fewer mortgages, fewer commercial real estate loans, fewer auto loans, and fewer credit cards being issued. So it should greatly concern all of us that the U.S. banks are bleeding deposits at an absolutely staggering pace right now. During the week ending March 15, $98.4 billion was pulled out of U.S. banks. That was really bad, but we just learned that things got even worse the next week. During the week ending March 22nd, $126 billion was pulled out of U.S. banks. Depositors drained another $126 billion from U.S. banks during the week ending March 22nd, according to new Federal Reserve data, and this time the outflow came from the nation's largest institutions. But this banking crisis did not begin in March, as many have been led to believe. Over the past year, well over $1 trillion has been pulled out of U.S. banks, and this has created a tremendous amount of financial stress. The challenge the deposit outflow creates for all banks is that if they raise the rates on their deposits to keep customers, that could make them less profitable. But if they lose too many customers, as Silicon Valley Bank did, they give up critical funding and may have to sell assets at a loss to cover withdrawals. Silicon Valley Bank customers withdrew $42 billion in one day, leaving the bank with a negative cash balance of $958 million, almost $1 billion. When lots of depositors started pulling their money out, banks can be forced to sell assets in order to have enough cash. Unfortunately, U.S. banks are sitting on a giant mountain of unrealized losses right now. Previously, it was being reported that U.S. banks are facing unrealized losses of $620 billion on the bonds that they are holding due to rapidly rising interest rates, but now we're being told that this is actually $780 billion. And when you throw in unrealized losses on their loan portfolios, the unrealized losses that our banks are facing come to a grand total of somewhere around $1.7 trillion. A study released on March 13 took a deeper look at the unrealized losses banks are likely holding. The study found that actual losses to bank security holdings were $780 billion, not $620 billion as estimated by the FDIC. But the authors went deeper, rightly noting loans like securities also lost value. They lose value when interest rates go up. They found that total unrealized losses as of December 2022 were $1.7 trillion, and in a chilling warning, the authors noted that the losses from the interest rates increases are comparable to the total equity in the entire banking system. We're not out of this banking crisis. In fact, it may just be the beginning. Ouch. The Federal Reserve has warned not to raise interest rates so quickly, but they did, and now they have broken our entire banking system. In fact, Nouriel Roubini is warning that most U.S. banks are technically near insolvency at this stage. Roubini also points out that the rise in interest rates has led to a decrease in the market value of banks' other assets, and when accounting for these factors, U.S. banks' unrealized losses actually amount to $1.75 trillion, or 80% of their capital. According to Roubini, the unrealized nature of these losses stems from the current regulatory regime, which allows banks to value securities and loans at their face value rather than their true market value, which is a lot less. He asserts that most U.S. banks are technically near insolvency. We are in far more trouble than most people realize. The truth is that we're not just heading into a recession. What we are potentially facing is a meltdown of the entire system, and it's going to take quite a while for this crisis to fully play out. But even now, symptoms are starting to erupt all around us. For example, McDonald's just decided to close all of their U.S. offices while they decide which of their employees still get to work for them. McDonald's is closing its U.S. offices for a few days this week as the company prepares to inform employees about layoffs as part of a broader restructuring, according to a report. The Chicago-based burger chain said in an internal email that U.S. corporate employees and some staff of international employees should work from home while the company notifies people of their job status virtually, the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday. Like so many other big companies are doing these days, McDonald's is going to be laying off people by email. What a horrible thing to do. Stay home and get your email. Can you imagine? Of course, when people get laid off, they can respond very emotionally, and confrontations between management and those that have been fired can get pretty intense. So informing people that they are terminated when they're out of the office is a way to avoid such a messy situation. But I still think that it's a really heartless thing to do. There is so little loyalty in the corporate world today, and you can pour out your heart and soul into a company for decades, and then one day some numbers cruncher comes along and suddenly decides that you have become expendable. We have seen so many layoffs in recent months, and many more are on the way. And at this point, a whopping 72% of all Americans believe that the economy is getting worse. A new survey shows that 83% of American adults view current economic conditions as only fair or poor, reported Gallup. In addition, 72% think economic conditions are getting worse. Unfortunately, what most people don't realize is that what we have been through so far is just the tip of the iceberg. All of the bubbles have started to burst, and our entire system is beginning to tremble violently. So I would encourage you to hold on tight, because we have got a very bumpy ride ahead of us. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, "My name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of the latest updates. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, The Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times, and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box